I'm going to actually give you a secret weapon to instantly reduce stress. And we all do this without realizing, and it's called the physiologic sigh. So the physiologic sigh is something that we tend to do when we overcome a stressor, right? So think of breathing a sigh of relief. We've heard that term before. Exactly. So a physiologic sigh is just that, but you're leaning into the mechanism. So what you would do is you would take a double breath in. So you would take a deep breath in through the nose and then pack it a little bit more with an inhale through the mouth. So just a deep inhale through the nose and a sharp inhale through the mouth at the very top. And then you would let that out with a sigh. So you'd go. So if you're ever working with a client and you need to get the nerves out of the room, or you just need them to be fully present and pay attention, or you're on a team meeting and the stakes are high, but everyone's just kind of under a stressful state, this is a great group exercise that you can do as well. So you take a deep breath in through the nose and then take another packing breath to just fully fill up the lungs. Hold it at the top for a pause of about 2 to 4 seconds and then let it out with a sigh.
Okay.
And you would do that 2 to 3 times.
Welcome to another episode of Tell Me Why I Suck, where I bring on experts to teach me why I suck at different things. And today I've got two friends, Sachin and Deepa, what are you guys? You're like my health advisors, spiritual advisors. How do you even position yourself?
It's a great question. We're trying to figure that out as well, because there's no nice box that we fit into. I would define myself as the eternal student who's always picking up new tools and new skills and then paying it forward by teaching it to our clients. So we like to look at root cause resolution. We like to look at low-hanging opportunities for people to improve their health and wellness and give them ways to track and measure their progress along the way.
Awesome. So this is Deepa's first time being on a YouTube video, so she's super excited to be here too. We kind of made her do it, but get it out of her comfort zone is what we do. And we're talking about breathing. So apparently my breathing sucks and most people's breathing sucks. So tell me why, what I'm doing wrong, and how I'm supposed to fix it.
Well, I would first start off by saying that my breathing sucked as well, because nobody actually taught me how to breathe. And it's something that we all take for granted.
I should be sitting more straight looking.
Yeah.
It's going to help my breathing.
It's something we all take for granted, and it's because we've been doing it our whole lives. However, breath is one of the most important tools to regulate our nervous system, to regulate blood flow, to regulate our healing, to improve sleep, to improve mental focus. And it's something that can unlock a new potential that we didn't even know we had. So breath actually sets the upper limit of our neurological function, metabolic function, cognitive function, sleep, recovery. All of those things are dependent on how we breathe. So we take about 23,000 breaths a day, whether we like it or not. And it's something that most of the time we're doing unconsciously unless we're bringing our attention to it. So our central nervous system, our brainstem actually regulates our respiratory rate. And that respiratory rate is an important signal. It signals our body what state we should be in. Should we be in a state of relaxation and repair, regeneration, rejuvenation, or should we be in a state of fight or flight? And so it's this signal that just keeps firing in the background, regulating all of these processes for us. What's cool about our breath is that although it's happening passively without us thinking about it, is that we can actually override it consciously. And so instead of being victims of poor breathing, we can conquer our breathing and instantly start, balancing our hormones, balancing our nervous system, sending blood flow to the organs that we want to send it to, sending blood flow to different parts of our brain. Should we want to do that, get more creative, get more focused, we can use breath to increase our energy and alertness, increase our blood pressure, increase our heart rate. We can also use breath to lower it. So depending on whatever state we want to be in, we can induce a breathing pattern to create that state in our body.
All right, exciting. So Deepa, how has changing your breathing changed your life?
I used to be a mouth breather. So I would say approximately 50% of the population mouth breathes. And when we breathe through our mouth, we give our nervous system a signal to be in fight or flight. And so for me, I'm more of a type A personality. I get stressed out more easily. And so breath and focusing on my breath and the way I breathe has really, I've been able to shift more into that parasympathetic state and be more calm and relaxed. Even when you put me on the spot to be on the interview,
there.
I had to
nose breathing.
I had to really, leverage my breath to keep me calm and relaxed.
Okay, so how do we know if we're a nose breather or a mouth breather? Do we just know? Is there a test? Now that I think about it, mouth breathing is wrong. So I want to close my mouth. But how do we know what we are?
Yeah, so there's actually a few signs that you might want to pay attention to. So as Deepa mentioned, about half the population mouth breathes during the day. However, 65% of the population mouth breathes at night. So a few clues that you might be a mouth breather. One would be cavities. So mouth breathing is actually the number one cause of cavities because it changes the microbiome. It dries out our saliva, which causes a concentration of the bacteria, which then kind of eats away at our gums and teeth. So dental health, gum health issues, those are usually signs of mouth breathing. A dry mouth is a sign of mouth breathing. Dry lips is a sign of mouth breathing. People who are thirsty all the time, because when we breathe through our nose actually recaptures a lot of the moisture. So if you just feel like you have this insatiable thirst, it could be other things, but it also, for a lot of people, it could be mouth breathing as well. A clear sign that somebody breathes through their mouth at night is if they're waking up really thirsty. Mouth is cottony, dry, and one of the cool things about breathing through your nose at night as opposed to breathing through your mouth is you reduce the frequency of nighttime urination. So when we breathe through our nose, we actually change a hormone in our body called vasopressin, which regulates our body fluid and body temperature. And so people who breathe through their mouth at night are much more likely to wake up in the night to use the restroom.
Wow. So less cavities if you breathe through your nose. We all think it's like about brushing your teeth. You recommended me to go to a dentist who said it doesn't really matter. You can brush your teeth with water. Like, what? I've been brushing my teeth with this toothpaste and it could just be water and I just need to tape my mouth and less urination at night. That's awesome. I've been taping my mouth because of you guys. And I'm going to admit the first night, and you just take a piece of surgical tape and like put it across.
Actually, vertically.
Oh, okay. So I did it across.
So you suck at mouth tape?
I suck at that. Yeah. Now I do it like across here, but like on an angle like that. But the first night I was scared. I think that's probably normal. Like, oh my God, what if I need to sneeze? What if I cough? What if I need to whatever? And it was actually a pretty rough night. But then I realized, I'm not going to die if I do this. And so every night I've been taping my mouth. Going vertical is easier. I used to get the big one and in the morning just rip it off. And then after 3 days, like my lips are bleeding everywhere. You're like, okay, there's probably a better way to do this. I should probably like wet it or something first if we're taking it off. But yeah, I would have really dry mouth for sure. I had a sore throat a lot. Cavities, I can't say if that's kind of gotten better or anything. But yeah, I've been doing that every night for, I don't know, 6 months when I came over.
Very good. I would like to offer a suggestion for anyone who's interested in trying this is that we use 3M micropore tape.
Yeah.
So it's a surgical tape that has pores, so it's very breathable. And we're just going to place a little bit of tape along our lips. Even if you have a beard like I do, the goal is to get it on your lips, not necessarily over the facial hair. And if it's really sticky for some people that have sensitive skin, you can just like dab the tape on your shirt a little bit so it creates less adhesiveness. And instead of taking the tape off, you can push it off with your tongue.
But that only does the top or the bottom. You get both sides at the same time?
You can with pushing it out with your tongue.
Yeah.
Yep. You just have to wet the tape a little bit with your saliva, and then that.
Because I'll push it, but then only the top comes off or the bottom comes off.
Okay. Well, then you might have to just lick that side a little bit, or you could just rip it off.
And why only a little bit instead of just the whole thing right across?
Well, for a few reasons. One is wasteful, right? So if your lips are sensitive to the tape, and that could be a uncomfortable experience having to take it off like that. It's not necessary. We're not trying to do is seal the mouth. What we're trying to do is keep the mouth closed. So it just serves as a cue, kind of a cue to the nervous system that our mouth should stay closed. Other people wear chin straps, so if you don't want to...
A chin strap?
So the idea of tape can be like overwhelming to some people.
What's a chin strap?
So a chin strap is basically a piece of cloth that just goes like across like this to keep your mouth closed.
Does it work just as effectively?
I haven't used it because I found the tape is very convenient for me. Okay. But it's an alternative.
Because you also have me on all of this organic everything, no chemicals in your bodies, and I'd like there's residue on the tape that's on my face every day.
Yeah, so you can use a chin strap then as an alternative if you're interested. The purpose of the tape is just to gently keep the mouth in that closed position, and you can still talk while the tape is on. You can still breathe through your mouth while the tape is on. So if you need to sneeze or cough or anything like that, there's enough room for that to happen.
Okay. And what about the nose strips?
Yep. So the nose strips are a great way to increase if you have a deviated septum, or if you have nostrils that can use some support with enlarging. Like mine, I have a narrow nose and narrow nostrils, so the strips kind of open up the airway a little bit more.
So I do that every night. The residue is crazy on those things, though. Mm-hmm. Is there something better that you can use?
There is a device called Mute, which is actually something that goes
silicone
into your nose.
Yeah.
And I didn't find that very comfortable for me personally. One of the things that I do recommend is if you are using the nose strips, there's 2 pieces of plastic that come off, right? And what I do is I take one of them and I place it vertically like this. So then the only place the adhesive is really sticking is on the side of my nose. So this part doesn't need adhesive because we're just trying to open it up this way. So that little strip in the middle, I just strip one off, put it vertically, and then it just reduces the amount of skin contact that's taking place.
So I was using the, what do you call it, Mute? Mute? I was using the Mute, and there's 3 different sizes of them, so you have to measure your nostrils basically and see which size fits best for you. But the silicone, right? Isn't that like plastic that you don't want to have in your nose?
You probably ideally don't want anything in your nose, right? If you don't need it there. So it just really depends on, if it's going to make a difference for you. So not everyone needs the strips. Not everyone needs those type of enhancements. It's only for those people who have a collapsed, a nasal airway or have restricted breathing. So if you find that your breathing isn't restricted and you can take a deep breath without any resistance, then you may not need to wear those things.
So here's what I found. If I wait a week and I don't have anything and I put it on, it's like, oh my gosh, it's like this is what breathing is actually like. This is great. And same thing with the Mute. I would put it in the first time, like, that was the greatest night's sleep of my life. This is insane. And then if I wore it the day 2 or day 3, it doesn't feel anything. Or if I took it out, I didn't feel the difference. But if I took it out for too long and came back to it a week later, so I just put it in every day. I don't know if that's recommended, or I could just go every 3 days, or
just to create a consistent habit, I would keep it in there. One thing to keep in mind is that our nose is actually lined with erectile tissue. So the same erectile tissue that is found in our genitals is very similar tissue is found inside of our nose. So throughout the day, you might...
This is relevant?
Well, so the reason this is relevant is because the inside of our nose will expand and contract.
Okay.
Because of this erectile tissue. So there are going to be times where when you insert something like that into your nose, it's going to feel like it's really opening up if it's congested. And there's going to be times that it's not going to feel as impactful. So it could also be based on how active that erectile tissue is. And we'll talk about that in just a minute, why that's relevant. Because what ends up happening is throughout the day, you might find that one nostril versus the other, you breathe more clearly through. And alternate nostril breathing is actually a way to regulate our nervous system. So you can cover one nostril, breathe in and out through it, cover the other, breathe in and out through it. And that balances the hemispheres in your brain, balances your energy. Throughout the day, your body's going to do that naturally. So one side will engorge and the breathing will be reduced through that side, and the other side will become more open. So throughout the day, our body is shifting what nostril we're breathing through. So how much of an impact that those inserts and the breathwork or the breath strips have is also going to be impacted by the erectile tissue in the nose.
Does breathing from one side of the nostril the other mean anything? Are you more stressed out if you're breathing on one side? Does it have any meaning?
Yep. So there's actually a good way to remember this. So if we want to increase our energy and increase the activation of our left brain, right? So our left brain is more logical. It deals with problem solving. So if you want to sit down, do some work, solve a problem, then breathing through your right nostril is considered optimal. So I would cover my left nostril and breathe in and out through my right nostril. Think of it like putting my foot on the gas. If I want to go and get some stuff done, then I would breathe through my right nostril, just like the accelerator on your car.
Okay.
If I want to calm things down and get more creative, because it's when we're in a calm, relaxed state that we're far more creative, then I would breathe through my left nostril. So covering my right nostril, breathing in and out through my left nostril. If I want to feel balanced, then I would take one breath in through my right nostril, the other through in and out, and then in and out through my left, and I would alternate from one side to the other.
And how many breaths do you need to take to shift?
Yeah, usually it's about 5 minutes. 3 to 5 minutes is what I recommend.
5 minutes. Okay.
Yep. It goes by pretty quick. So you're breathing in, 4-second inhale, 4-second exhale, and so pretty quickly you get to that 3 to 5 minute mark.
Got it. Okay, so how do we know if our breathing sucks, and how do we fix it?
So I know, Deepa, there's probably a lot that you could add here as well. But one of the things that we look for in a client is the state of their nervous system and the complaints and the challenges that they come in to see us with. So if you're tired, that could be a sign that your breathing sucks. If you get out of breath, that could be a sign that your breathing sucks. If your mouth is dry, or you have bad breath, or you have dental issues, gum issues, that could be a sign that our breathing sucks. Another sign that our breathing sucks is if we kind of seem like we're stuck in this fight or flight state all the time, because our respiratory rate will always match our nervous system. So there's two ways that this can happen. One is an emotion triggers the stress response, which then alters our breathing. But we can always override that by being aware of our breath and then realizing, okay, I'm taking short, shallow breaths. I need to improve my breathing. Another sign your breathing sucks is you can actually use something like this. This is a very inexpensive tool called a spirometer.
A spirometer?
Yeah, so a spirometer measures your ability or your lung capacity. So how much volume you can keep in your lungs. So this is a great tool to be able to measure, lung capacity and to increase it as well. So it's like a little gym for your lungs.
Okay, you got a demo for us?
I sure can.
Can you hit the top? Is it like that thing in the carnival when the bell goes off?
So no bells, but the goal is to get to the top. So the way you use this, and you'll see this a lot in hospitals. So a lot of times if people are in the hospitals with a respiratory issue, they'll send them home with this. But it's also great as a prophylactic tool. So
what are we watching as you do this?
So there's, I don't know if you can see this, but there's a little thing here that says good, better, and best.
Okay.
So if you breathe in too quickly, then you'll see that this plunger will rise too quickly.
Okay.
This one here measures volume, and we call this an incentive spirometer because we can adjust the amount of incentive we want to give someone. Okay. My incentive is always to go.
Okay. And what are we going to see? Is something's going to come up?
Yep. So then this little white plunger will come up as I breathe. So what you do?
How nervous are you about hitting the top?
Oh, I usually do. Yeah. Okay. So it wasn't always that way. When I first did it, I was like, man, this is hard. And then you get better and better. So
we need the advanced version of this one just for you.
Yeah, one that's like this tall. So it looks like a bong, but there's no water or anything in it and no drugs in it. So what you would do is you would take a complete exhale. And that's actually a skill that we'll talk about, is learning how to fully exhale your lungs, because the reason we breathe is actually not to increase the amount of oxygen. The reason we breathe is because we can't tolerate the CO2 that accumulates. Okay. So our urge to breathe isn't because we need more oxygen, it's because we cannot tolerate the amount of CO2 that's concentrating in our lungs. So we'll talk about that. We'll come back to that in a second. So I take a full exhale.
I think you missed it by like a little bit.
It's the nerves of being on camera.
No, that was good. That was good.
So you breathe in nice and slow, and then the idea here is you want to keep it controlled.
Yeah.
Right? So if I quickly inhale, then this is going to bounce to the top.
Yeah.
And then that means I'm doing it too quickly.
Got it.
One of the things that's interesting about something like this is you can build lung capacity quite quickly. So breathing is actually really neat because it's one of those areas that you can improve measurably quite fast. So another way to
have a tool to kind of see it. What's the benefit of increased lung capacity? How does that help me?
Great question. So lung capacity actually, according to the Framingham study, was the greatest predictor of lifespan. So the deeper your lungs can inhale air, and that makes sense. If you've ever been blessed enough to be present when somebody is dying, you'll know that their breath is one of the last things to give out. So when they are gasping for air, they can't breathe, that's usually, makes sense that they're not going to live very long. So our ability to inhale, deeply is a great gift to lifespan and life extension.
Wow. Let's throw to Deepa. Do you have a client story or somebody you've worked with? Because you work with a lot of people one-on-one where breath changed their life.
Yeah, so we work with a lot of clients with regards to their metabolic health, and optimizing breathing is one of the main ways to shift their metabolic health. So for every 10 pounds that someone loses, 8.5 of those is lost through the breath. So one of the elements that we incorporate with our clients is teaching them how to breathe properly, and teaching them, a lot of the things that Sachin had spoken about in terms of breathing through their nose versus their mouth, really slowing down their breath. So I'm sure he'll expand a little bit more in terms of the optimal cadence that we should be breathing at to optimize metabolic health. And it's one of the best tools to shift the nervous system into more of a parasympathetic state, right? And when we're in that parasympathetic rest and digest state, that's when all the healing and repair and regeneration occurs.
But for every 10 pounds somebody loses, 8.5 is through the breath? These are just your clients, or this is in general?
No, this is a fact.
Yeah.
It's not diet, it's not exercise, it's breathing.
Well, the end byproduct of metabolism in the mitochondria, where energy is actually made, the two end products are water and carbon dioxide. Because carbon dioxide is heavier than oxygen, right? We pull those carbons out of the system and then we exhale it. So the breakdown of fat is carbon dioxide and water. So the other 1.5 pounds, we pee it out. The rest of it is through our breath. So people wonder, where does the weight go, right? Like, do we poop it out? Do we pee it out? Do we sweat it out? You breathe most of it out and the rest of it you pee out.
Wow. All right. Now I really want to fix my breathing.
It literally is the most important thing that we do. And, if breathing correctly also makes a huge difference in not only cognitive function, but in one of the most important molecules that our body makes called nitric oxide. So nitric oxide is a vasodilator, which means that it dilates blood vessels and allows for better circulation. The hardest place to get blood to is our brain, because we're working against gravity and we have tiny little blood vessels that we have to go through to get nutrients to the brain. So nitric oxide dilates our blood vessels to allow better circulation. Nitric oxide is also it kills viruses and bacteria on contact. So we have nitric oxide that lines the inside of our mucous membrane in our nose. So when we breathe through our nose, we actually kill viruses and bacteria on contact versus breathing through our mouth, which is actually the dirtiest part of our body. So, from a biological standpoint, from a microbiome standpoint, our mouth is literally dirtier than our anus in terms of bacteria. Sounds weird and gross when you think about it.
Good visual.
But it's a different type of bacteria that's down than what's down there, but it is literally the dirtiest part of us. So we want to take a nice clean air and we want to breathe out through our nose, because our nose recaptures moisture. When we breathe in through our nose, it pressurizes the air, allowing us to have a much deeper breath. It also allows us to get 20% more oxygen from each breath that we take. So it's like profoundly shifting in somebody's health when they go from being a mouth breather to being a nasal breather.
Wow. Now you guys got me on this Oura ring here. Measures all sorts of weird stuff, half of which I understand, the other half I'm figuring out. Is there a way to track your breath to know, like you get some kind of alert, hey, breathe? Is there any device that tracks that?
So that's a great question. The Oura ring does passively track your respiratory rate. So it is one of the markers that if you look at your sleep and readiness score, it'll tell you how many breaths you're taking at rest while you're sleeping. A device that I like is a Garmin. It's a Vivo Smart 5. And this is a very inexpensive, kind of smartwatch, if you will. Or not, it's a fitness tracker versus a smartwatch. And it actually tracks my daytime respiratory rate. And one of the things that it also does is if it detects an abnormal heart rate, so my stress, which means my stress levels are increasing. And sometimes that happens when I'm presenting. Sometimes that happens when I'm really excited about something. Usually it's more that than me being stressed out about something. It'll tell me. And what that'll then do is it'll prompt me to take a little bit of a breathing break. So this actually has a built-in breathwork app, which then keeps track of, my every 4 seconds it'll vibrate to tell me it's time to either breathe in, hold, or breathe out, and allows me to do box breathing without having to count and just focus on my breath completely.
Wow. And does it buzz when you're getting stressed out? How does it let you know?
Yep, it just vibrates and says abnormal heart rate detected.
Okay.
And if it detects that a few times, it'll say, hey, it's probably time for you to take a breathing break right now.
If you're angry and then that thing goes off, does it make you angrier?
No, it actually it shows me and demonstrates to me that my body's being affected by this, not just my mind and my environment or my relationship, depending on the situation, that it's actually poison to my body to be in this state right now.
Nice. So you mentioned box breathing. That's like in for 4, hold for 4, out for 4, hold for 4.
Mm-hmm.
What are the different kinds of breathing, and then what are the applications? Like, when do I use box breathing versus other types?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So there's literally there's an app for everything, there's a breath for everything. I'll talk about common considerations around breathing, things that we're doing all the time, and how we should be breathing. So there's a breath app that I use called I Breathe, and it basically allows you to set either haptic feedback or sound-based feedback every few seconds, and you can set what those seconds are. So I have it dinging, just very gently dinging every 6 seconds. And so the best breath that we can use is called a coherence breath, where you're inhaling for 6 seconds, exhaling for 6 seconds. And so I don't want to sit there and count that while I'm checking my email or doing work. I can just have that dinging in the background, and that serves as a reminder of what my breathing cadence should be. There's actually a phenomenon that I learned from James Nestor, who wrote the book Breath, called email apnea. So people literally hold their breath and they stop breathing while they're checking their email or while they're on their computer. And so the I breathe is just a gentle reminder to, hey, this is the cadence and the pace that you should be breathing at. What's important about daytime breathing cadence is we carry that into the evening. So the average way we breathe during the day ends up being the average way we breathe at night. Because we can't control how we breathe at night, it's unconscious. We have to control how we breathe during the day. So that 6-second cadence is like a great breathing pattern to be in throughout the day. And studies have shown that's what gets our body into a state of relaxation but also like you're actively relaxed versus being totally shut down. Another breathing technique that I like to use is something called Ujjayi breath or victory breath. And this replicates a CPAP machine. So a CPAP machine, which millions of Americans and Canadians wear, is something that helps us breathe at night. And it basically creates a continuous positive airway pressure. That's what CPAP stands for. And you can use this type of breathing technique to eliminate the need for a CPAP machine, but also to create relaxation in the body, to clear the throat, and to enhance the function of the diaphragm. So it's really simple. You would just sit up nice and straight. And it might be hard to pick up on the mic, but you're essentially pretending like you're fogging a mirror. So all three of us can try this together. Place your tongue gently at the roof of your mouth, keeping your jaw relaxed and closed. And then just take a deep breath in, a normal breath. And then now what I want you to do is as you breathe out, I want you to keep your mouth closed, but pretend you're fogging a mirror. So you're using your glottis.
Wait, I'm fogging
to create resistance. Yeah.
So fogging my nose.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we call this ocean breath as well. It should sound like the ocean. And you're going to, as you inhale, you're going to take a breath the same way. So you're creating a little bit of resistance on the inhale here, almost like you're yawning.
What's the in out?
So this can be 4 to 6 seconds in, 4 to 6 seconds out.
And there's no hold.
And there's no hold. So you're just kind of going in an in and out pattern.
Okay, so the first one, 6 in, 6 out, that's our regular daytime office working cadence, like ideal.
Yep.
Okay, this one, Ujjayi?
Ujjayi or ocean breath.
Ocean breath. And what's the purpose of this one?
So this creates a continuous positive airway pressure. So if somebody's wearing a CPAP or they want to improve their nighttime breathing, if they have apnea, this is a great way for them to breathe periodically throughout the day to create that positive airway pressure.
And it's basically the inhale, but then there's a louder exhale.
So the inhale and the exhale should be about the same volume. Or same sound.
Okay, I can see
so
that.
It's almost like Darth Vader. Like imagine you're Darth Vader and you're trying to make that noise.
What if I like stare down Nina while I do it? Does it help?
Always helps when you stare down your spouse, yeah.
What about the box? When do we use box?
So box breathing is great if you're wanting to relax. So anything that lengthens the exhale is going to create a state of relaxation. So when you think about box breathing, we're inhaling for 4 seconds, we're holding for 4 seconds, exhaling for 4 seconds, and then holding for 4 seconds. So your inhale effectively is 4 seconds and your exhale is 12 seconds. So you're increasing the concentration of CO2 and then you're exhaling it out. And then you're inhaling again and you're going through this cycle. So that's gonna create a nice state of relaxation in the body.
Is that just a de-stress? Is that bedtime?
You could use it. I mean, bedtime's a great time to de-stress for people. The Ujjayi breath is also a great breath to use at that time in the evening. Ujjayi breath we can also use to warm our body up as well. So if somebody's feeling cold, if they want to warm their hands and feet up, they can use the Ujjayi breath to do that too.
Okay, so if Deepa is nervous about coming on camera, which you're crushing it by the way, right? Is she coming in and doing the nostril close to get into relaxation? Is she doing the Ujjayi breath? Is she doing box breathing?
Well, I'm going to actually give you a secret weapon to instantly reduce stress. And she actually did it without probably even realizing. And we all do this without realizing. And it's called the physiologic sigh. So the physiologic sigh is something that we tend to do when we overcome a stressor, right? So think of breathing a sigh of relief. We've heard that term before. Exactly. So a physiologic sigh is just that, but you're leaning into the mechanism. So what you would do is you would take a double breath in. So you would take a deep breath in through the nose, and then pack it a little bit more with an inhale through the mouth. So just a sharp inhale through the mouth, a deep inhale through the nose, and a sharp inhale through the mouth at the very top, and then you would let that out with a sigh. So you'd go.
I feel relaxed just listening. That's great. You could sell and Sachin exhales as a ringtone or something.
And this is what she did. So when you told her we're going to put you on, she went, ah. So she actually did it without realizing that she did it. And we will tend to do this. So if you're ever working with a client and you need to like get the nerves out of the room, or you just need them to be fully present and pay attention, or you're on a team meeting and the stakes are high, but everyone's just kind of under a stressful state, this is a great group exercise that you can do as well. So you take a deep breath in through the nose, and then take another packing breath to just fully fill up the lungs. Hold it at the top for a pause of about 2 to 4 seconds, and then let it out with a sigh.
Okay.
And you would do that 2 to 3 times. You want to give it a shot?
Okay. So Nina's upset at me for not cleaning out the dishwasher. I'm very stressed out. So good. My shoulders relaxed too.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you just let that all the way out, and then 3 to 5 times, and you're going to feel a big shift in your physiology.
I saw on your Instagram you standing outside going like this. So what's this breathing all about?
Yeah, it's a great question. So there's a few different times that you've probably seen me outside, or maybe not, but the exercise I think you're referring to is when I was in my grass in the summer. Yeah. So this is a technique that we use to move big muscle groups to increase nitric oxide production. So we call this a nitric oxide dump. And so basically you start off by doing squats. So you do squats, throw your hands up in front of you, and you do squats. Then you stand up straight and then do front shoulder raises. And then you would, from there, you would do side raises like this. Okay.
Like a jumping jack, or
you're standing still, you're not jumping.
Okay.
And then you would just go straight up and down like this. So you're basically getting the biggest muscle groups in your body. You're getting your shoulders, your back muscles, your leg muscles, your glutes, your extensor muscles. And what those muscles do is anytime we increase tension and lengthen those muscles, they start creating a signal to increase nitric oxide in the body. And so what nitric oxide does is it dilates blood vessels to bring more blood to that particular tissue.
What's the breathing pattern connected to that?
So the breathing pattern connected to that would be, I like to breathe through my nose as much as possible when I do that. And so on the contraction, we would exhale. So what that means is...
So it's fast.
So yeah, you're going pretty fast with each movement. And you're doing it 10 repetitions of each exercise for four sets.
And that's like first thing in the morning?
Yeah, you could do it first thing in the morning. It's a great pre-workout, right? So a lot of times when people take pre-workout formulas, what pre-workouts are loaded with to give us that pump is nitric oxide enhancing nutrients. So because our body makes nitric oxide, especially when we breathe correctly, we should tap into our own reserves instead of looking for outside sources of it. If we're not breathing correctly, we're not going to be making enough of it, throughout the day, not just before we work out. Another thing to note about nitric oxide is that using mouthwash kills nitric oxide production because the bacteria in our mouth is what helps create that nitric oxide. So interestingly enough, during these past few years, doctors were recommending people to use mouthwash to lower their likelihood of transmitting or getting an infection. But in fact, that is actually very dangerous and counterproductive advice because you actually kill your body's own natural defense mechanisms against fighting viruses and bacteria.
Wow. Yeah, I couldn't believe when the dentist said you don't need to use toothpaste.
Yeah.
We still do, but we took like because there's something bad it was a fluoride or there's something bad in toothpaste.
Well, a lot of toothpaste is loaded with all kinds of stuff, right? So they make it antimicrobial, so now it starts altering the oral microbiome. They add fluoride to it. They add like sweeteners and coloring and all kinds of artificial mechanisms that you wouldn't even find in food, right? And you can't even swallow toothpaste because it's so bad for you, but somehow we can put it in our mouth, assuming that nothing's getting into our body. You also have glycerin and other like polishing agents that, just are not good for us in general. So we recommend, we use a mushroom infused toothpaste. Or you can also use a tooth powder. So a tooth powder can remineralize your teeth, and it doesn't necessarily come in the form of a toothpaste, which just to make something into a paste, you have to add chemicals to it. You have to add binders and fillers and excipients and other agents to it just to be able to put something into that format, whereas a tooth powder doesn't require all that.
So you put your toothbrush into the tooth powder, mix it around a little bit, and then start brushing?
Yep.
Nobody does this.
One other thing to mention about nitric oxide is Viagra. As an example,
We went sex organs, now we're talking about
yeah, well, Viagra actually acts on increasing nitric oxide. That's its mechanism of action. What it does is it recirculates the components that we need to make nitric oxide. It doesn't increase nitric oxide production, but it allows us to utilize it a little bit better. So for about 40% of people who take Viagra, it doesn't actually work for them because their own nitric oxide levels are extremely low. And so one of the things that we use to kind of help people understand the importance of breathing through their nose is that studies have shown that men who breathe through their mouth at night actually have lower testosterone levels and have a greater likelihood of erectile dysfunction because they're not breathing through their nose. So, that should be incentive enough for most men to make sure they're breathing correctly, especially at night.
Wow.
Yeah. So actually,
we're going from erection difficulties to, what did he bring?
So you can actually test nitric oxide levels.
Okay.
So I know I'm putting everyone here on the spot, but I think it'd be fun to kind of test our levels and see where we're at.
Let's go.
And there's ways that you can increase it. So what you're going to do is you're going to take the side that says saliva here, and you're going to put that on your tongue for 10 seconds and just make sure it's soaked with your saliva. And we're just going to see what our nitric oxide levels are. So just put it down your mouth. Okay. And now we're going to fold the strip so the two pads now touch.
Okay.
And just do that for about 5 seconds. And what we should see is there should be pink.
Okay.
So the pinker, the better.
Can't even see anything. Wow, look at you, like lipstick on. I got nothing. Did I even do it right?
We can try it again, but most people are like this.
Pure white?
Yeah.
It's like I didn't even do it. Or I'm colorblind, but maybe a little bit.
Yeah, but that's how it should look.
Okay, so my breathing sucks. Is that what this is telling me, or what is this nitric oxide?
It could tell us that your nitric oxide, well, it certainly tells us that your nitric oxide levels are not where they should be.
Okay.
So what I brought for you is a gift.
Okay.
And what you would do to increase nitric oxide levels is you would simply take 2 of these once a day. So you can go ahead and take 2 capsules there. And this will give you the precursors for you to make more of your own nitric oxide.
What am I even taking? I don't even know. Randomly pop pills in my mouth.
So this is a capsule. It's made by Berkeley Life, and it's got vitamin C, thiamine, which is a B vitamin, B12, magnesium, potassium nitrate, beetroot extract, and fermented beetroot powder. So beets are actually a great source of nitric oxide precursors for our body. So you'll find nowadays natural pre-workout products actually have beetroot extract in them. So you can eat certain foods like beets, arugula, that are high in nitrites that help increase your own production.
So are you taking this every day?
I do.
Wow.
Yeah. So interesting thing about nitric oxide is that our levels after we turn 40 literally fall off a cliff. So this is the age where people's testosterone starts dipping.
That's like for everything falls off a cliff at 40.
Yeah. But here's the thing. Nitric oxide plays a key mechanism in all of those things. So when you think about men using something like Viagra, it's all tied to nitric oxide. In fact, the very drug is tied to recirculating your own nitric oxide. But if you don't have any, or you're not eating enough foods that contain it, then you're not even going to be able to benefit from that medication, and amongst other things. So nitric oxide also helps regulate our blood pressure. So if your nitric oxide levels are low, then chances are your blood pressure is going to be high because your blood vessels stay constricted. Our immune system goes off a cliff because it's responsible as a first-line defense against viruses and bacteria. If we're breathing in through our nose, the first mechanism of defense that we have is the lining of our nostrils. And so that's where nitric oxide is very concentrated and potent as well.
So take the pills plus do a lot more nose breathing.
Yes. And to demonstrate this to my son, to convince him to mouth tape at night.
How old is your son?
He's 12. You think he's 30 though. So just from the way he acts, very mature, like amazing human being. So I said, okay, Devin, I'm not going to tell you. We'll let the strips tell you. So we did first thing in the morning, breaths, the strip without mouth taping. We did the next day with mouth taping, and it was much pinker. And then we did the strips after giving him one of the capsules. He's half our size, so we gave him one of the capsules and he could just see how pink it was.
Wow.
So if you're looking to give your child or yourself an advantage in athletics, improving and optimizing breathing mechanics, and then supplementing with something that increases nitric oxide will take your performance to a whole new level.
Wow. I should test it in the morning.
Yeah.
Wonder if there'd be a big difference, because I tape every night.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
I've been talking all day, so I'm probably shooting for... How do you talk and breathe through your nose? Can you do that?
Well, I mean...
Just take breaths while...
What I encourage people to do is, and I should probably do this now, is pause. And then continue speaking, right? I mean, sometimes we're just rapid fire and we keep going.
Yeah.
But we're not talking all the time. So when we aren't talking, then we really want to be conscientious of that. There is a breathing technique that increases nitric oxide by 1,500%. So I'd love to share that with you and our viewers as well. It's called Bumblebee Breath, or it's also known as Brahmari Breath. And basically what you do is you would sit up nice and straight. And I'll walk you through the instructions. Sit up nice and straight. You're going to take a deep breath in, into the belly, into the lungs, keeping your tongue at the roof of your mouth. And then as you exhale, you're going to try to hum at the frequency of your face is the best way to put it. So you're going to find a frequency
of my face?
Yes, and I'll explain that in a second. So you want to feel your whole face and skull vibrating. Wow. And because the shape of our faces is different, the frequency that we attain is going to be a little bit different as well. So I'll kind of do it, and then you guys can follow suit. And what we want to do is we want to take a long, lengthy exhale, but we want to be loud and proud as we do it. So I'll walk you through it. So we'll take a deep breath in. Keep going. There you go. Awesome. Great job. So doing this about 5 to 6 times will increase nitric oxide
I
production.
feel like I wanted the frequency of your face though, because we had kind of like the same.
Yeah, it's going to be very similar.
Okay.
But what you want to get to is you want to get to the frequency where it feels like your whole skull is vibrating.
Okay.
What this does is we're lengthening the exhale, which is going to put us into a relaxed state, and we're vibrating the pineal gland, and we're also vibrating the whole skull. So we're kind of waking up that mucosal membrane. So this will 15x your nitric oxide production. So doing this, like sitting down, doing this, it would be kind of cool to see if we are able to accomplish that and see a change in the strips. But remember that the production of nitric oxide is very closely and heavily dependent on the bacteria in our mouth. So somebody may not have either the precursors or the microbiome in their mouth that is conducive to nitric oxide production.
So if you did that a couple times and you did the strip again, it would test different.
You might have to do it for 5 to 10 minutes, but it's possible that it would test different. Again, it depends on how much precursor you have, right? Because we're not giving you something to increase nitric oxide, we're inducing the production of it. So we're signaling in the body that I need to make more, and that's what you're doing to do that. So if you don't see a change, then odds are that you don't have the precursors to make it in the first place.
Is there a blood test for that, or how do you know if you have the precursors?
Well, one is the strips.
Right.
If you're doing all the things right and it's still low, then we would want to supplement, see if that brings it up. Usually within 90 minutes, you'll see a difference. So what I'll do is I'll leave a few strips with you.
And 90 minutes after taking that?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So that's how we know it works. That's how we know it's doing its thing.
Got it. These exercises are hard to do too, because Deepa's got this giant smile on her face while you're doing it. And so does Nina. It's like this becomes like a try not to laugh challenge as well. I got to close my eyes. You're so into it. And the three of us are like smiling. It's hard to do. If somebody's watching this and it's like, oh my gosh, this like sounds so complicated compared to what we take 27,000 breaths a day or
23,000. Some people more. We actually overbreathe as a society, and we can talk about that too.
So for somebody who's watching this feeling stressed out and overwhelmed now, I guess, breathe through one side and box breathe and calm down. But then what's the easiest first thing to do to start incorporating a practice?
Great question. So meet yourself where you're at, okay? So if you're naturally a mouth breather, then a great starting point for that person might be to have the self-awareness that I'm breathing through my mouth and catch themselves throughout the day and identify, okay, I'm breathing through my mouth, let me breathe through my nose. The next step I would say would be for somebody to be aware of their breathing cadence while they're doing work. Because if we want to be productive and do high quality work and be focused and be present, how we breathe actually sets the upper limit to that capability. So I would encourage them to, when they're starting to do focused work, is to first focus on their breath, because that will then tell their brain where to send blood. It will recalibrate their nervous system, and it'll get them to be in a more productive state. The next time I would get them to increase their breathing or to improve and optimize breathing is unconsciously, which means while they're sleeping. So something as simple as mouth taping at night could be a great starting point for people, because they actually just have to think about putting the tape on, and then they don't have to think about it after that. Mm-hmm. Having those areas of awareness could be good. So when I'm shifting gears, what state do I need to be in, right? So if I need to amp myself up, there's a technique called yogic coffee, which I can show you as well. That could be a great way to raise adrenaline, a great way to pump you up. A substitute for coffee, for example, it's a great way to supercharge your day in the morning. If they want to get calm and focus, they can use a physiologic sigh to shift gears, right? To, especially if you're going to work with a client and you don't want to bring the noise in your life into that conversation. If you're coming home from work and you just want to leave it in the car and not bring it into the house, right? Or if you're going to the office and you want to leave, the stress at home in the car or at home and not bring it to the office, the physiologic sigh is a great way to do that. And what I also encourage people to do is, if you're having meetings throughout the day with people, is bake that into your meeting, so that by demonstrating it to the client, not only are they in a better state to learn and receive and remember, but you're also in a better state to deliver your message as well.
So baking what, the sigh one?
You could do, it depends on what they need,
Okay.
right? So you could do coherence breathing, 6 seconds in, 6 seconds out for a couple of minutes. You could do a couple of physiologic sighs if you want. You could do the buzz breath, right? So you could switch it up between different appointments if you want to. But, ask the patient how their day is, right? And then you can choose a breathing technology that could be most beneficial to them.
Just imagine next time I'm talking to Grant Cardone, they'll just say, okay, we got to buzz breath together, and you need to breathe at the vibration of your face. That's a great starting point. I love it. That's cool. Deepa, what do you go to on an ongoing? Like, what's the breath style here that you do every day?
So the one that I try to incorporate into my day-to-day is coherent breathing.
Okay.
So it's called a HeartMath certified trainer. You can set it to different cadence, and the main goal of HeartMath is to get your body from a stressed out state to a relaxed state in a very quick time frame. The HeartMath is a device that you can purchase, and it hooks up to your phone, and it measures whether you're in a state of coherence or not. And the way it does that is by measuring something called heart rate variability. So your Oura Ring also measures it passively, but the HeartMath device measures it in real time. Like this morning, for example, I did about 5 minutes of HeartMath. And so you're basically timing your breath with a breath pacer, which is timed at, for me, I timed it at 6 seconds on the inhale and then 6 seconds on the exhale. And when I focus my breath on that, then I'm able to be in a state of high coherence, which allows me to be in a more calm and relaxed state. HeartMath is an institution that's done a lot of research as well, and it's shown to be able to decrease anxiety, decrease depression, helps improve sleep, helps improve focus, helps improve attention and mental clarity. So it's a great device that you can purchase to actually objectively measure whether you're in that state of high coherence and whether you're in a parasympathetic state or not.
And then it'll show you your HRV?
Yep, it shows you your HRV.
Because you guys have said my HRV sucks. Right? What am I at? I'm at like a 40 or something. I need to be at the 80. What if I forget what my data is like, but it's not very good.
So just to be clear, I never said it sucks.
Okay.
I would say there's room for improvement.
Well, okay, you're being kind. The show is Tell Me Why I Suck, so...
Yeah. The one thing I'll say is that your Oura Ring is measuring your HRV passively.
Yeah.
So it's measuring it while you're sleeping. Whereas the HeartMath is almost like a HRV gym. So it's teaching you what breathing pattern is going to help you increase your heart rate variability and get into a state of coherence. It's like almost like a gym to strengthen HRV.
Right.
HRV, I should also mention, is a relative term. So I'm not we shouldn't compare ours to each other. Like all three of us are going to have different kind of HRV readings, but the goal is to always work on getting it better.
So heart rate variability, it's the time between your heartbeats.
Yes.
And the idea is to make it as high as possible so that your heart is beating slower. Right? Okay, that one took me forever to figure out. I don't know why. Why is higher better? I don't understand, but it's the time between the beats. And so the best way for me to not suck at HRV is to do HeartMath training?
I would say so.
All right.
To raise it would be HeartMath training.
Yeah.
We also find other ways that we see people's HRV going up passively, like fasting. So a lot of times when people go on a extreme fasting protocol, they'll notice that their HRV starts to increase. If they incorporate intermittent fasting or they avoid late meals, they'll notice that their HRV increases. Sometimes we have just background noise stress that's going on in our lives. We just have a lot on our plate. And so under times of duress and stress or illness, we'll see people's HRV start to tank. So we're always looking for trends. So you might start, let's say, in the 40s, and the goal is like, how do we trend that upwards if we're seeing opportunity for improvement?
And where should I be?
You should be where you need to be. So again,
Yeah, but what did you tell me on the call? I need to be like,
well,
70 or
I
something,
say
right?
I like to see it at least above 60,
Right.
closer to 100.
Is that not closer to 100? Is that not a big deal? Like if I'm at 40, I need to more than double. Is that not a big deal, or is that like the changes happen fast?
I mean, I think
Feels like it's giant.
you're doing a lot of the right things, right?
Okay, but I still
So-
flex. And so is it a big mountain to climb, or that's actually
It could be like one of the things that we see is when people's HRV tends to stay on the lower side is that they are, and this isn't directed at you, but this is just a general observation, is that they don't recover very well. So it's their push, go, go, and then their body is they're pushing themselves too hard, either physically, mentally, emotionally during the day, that they're not able to get into that deeper relaxed state.
like during sleep or just in general?
So there's a breathing signature that we have during the day that carries forward into the evening, right? So if we're kind of wired stress, like shallow breathing, or not conscientious of how we breathe during the day, our HRV is going to be all over the place, which means that at night, it's probably going to be on the lower side as opposed to being on the higher side. So what we do during the day carry forwards into our evening.
How big a mountain am I trying to climb here? Like if I was trying to lose more than half of my body weight, like that's a big deal, right? So going from 40 to 100, is that a giant mountain? Do I have to be like an Olympic athlete to do that, or is that's doable? Or to get to 80 is pretty easy.
I mean, I have some thoughts. I'd love your thoughts.
I think, as Sachin said, we don't want to compare ourselves to others. Like everyone's HRV is unique.
But he told me I need to be at 100. Or he's basically telling me I suck here. So it's just how I don't know. I'm trying to understand how big of a journey is that? Is that, hey, if I did heart math for 10 minutes a day for the next year, I'll get to like 60 or something.
So HRV is measuring your resiliency to stress, and stress doesn't always come in emotional stress, right? Stress is physical, chemical, emotional. So if you're exposed to a lot of toxins, if you have parasite overgrowths or bacterial overgrowths, which is a whole nother like rabbit hole to go down, that's a stressor on the body, right? So there's so many different stressors on the body that can impact HRV, even emotional stress, traumas, even something perhaps from our childhood that's, unresolved trauma that we haven't dealt with can impact your overall resiliency to stress.
Should I always be sick? Like, should I be dead or something here? Like, how bad is 40?
I mean, I've seen HRVs in the 18s, so I don't think, yours is not in the toilet.
Okay.
There's
But
room
most
for
people are overweight, just as a general rule, right? So like most people aren't healthy.
Sometimes there's a difference between our physical health and our nervous system health. So somebody who's thin and even muscular can be just totally jacked up when it comes to their nervous system, right? So there's people who are thin and skinny and even physically fit, they're anxious all the time, that have toxic breathing patterns, that are just raging all the time, right? Either internally or externally. And there's people that, let's say are overweight or maybe don't have the most desirable body composition, that are calm, relaxed, peaceful, a joy to be around, right? They're happy, they go lucky, they're laughing, right? And they have a good energetic signature, a good aura to be around. So we don't always want to correlate somebody's physical appearance and the nervous system health, because sometimes that could be a little bit misleading.
Sure. I was thinking in general, like averages, most people are overweight. I would suspect most people's HRV sucks.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. We're looking for trending, right? So if we see that, hey, you're consistently in the 40s, right? And you're doing a lot of the right stuff, then hey, that's great. Let's see if we can trend it upwards. But we're more concerned when it starts trending downwards.
Right.
Because then we're picking up a signal that something isn't quite right. So when somebody gets like, we've seen over the last few years when people get COVID, or when there's a disease or illness that's kind of onsetting, and we'll see like their HRV will nosedive, usually before they get symptoms. because their body's responding, and that's like something that we'll see, and then the symptoms will show up a little bit afterwards.
I think the thing for you to look at maybe on your Aura ring is you can look at HRV, and you can look at the trend in terms of what your HRV is on a day-to-day basis, week-to-week basis, and month-to-month basis. So you should maybe look at the trend on a month-to-month basis and see if you've seen an upward trajectory from when you first started wearing it. Like it sometimes, it's going to vary, right? Like if you got sick, let's say in December, it might have taken a bit of a nosedive, but in general, from when you started wearing the ring and you've made a lot of differences in your health, have you seen a little bit of an increase? So that's what you want to kind of look out for. Like, when we work with our clients, we have them really try to pay attention to that number to see if they're seeing a trend in terms of it improving when they start working with us. And for most of our clients, they'll see that upward trend. So that's kind of what you want to look at.
So am I just a high-functioning anxiety person or something? I don't remember why. I don't feel stressed out. I don't think we have a lot of toxins. We eat pretty clean, everything. But if I'm, in the 40s, am I just dealing with some trauma or anxiety pretty well and just handling it? Or
it's all relative. So if you and I were to switch roles in life, right, we were to swap each other's lives out, I might find your life very stressful, right? You've adapted to that level of stress, or the opposite could be true as well. You might be like, holy, how does he do this, right?
But I haven't adapted to it if I'm so low on the HRV, right? I mean, my body is telling me you're not recovering.
Yeah, I mean, you could be overly active during the day, right? Or there might not be enough downtime in your day. I know you spend a lot of time on the rebounder,
yeah,
right? So maybe that's creating, a trend in your nervous system that is carrying that signature into the evening. So might be worth maybe for a few days not rebounding and seeing what happens, because there's a lot of caloric expenditure that you're putting out, right?
Okay. All right. I gotta figure it out. Okay. So what would my heart math training be? I want to improve my HRV. I want to go to the gym for my heart. What am I doing? What's my protocol?
I would say whatever time of day is best for you, or whatever time of day you feel like you need to get more into that rest and digest state. Usually, for me personally, I like to do it first thing in the morning. But if that's first thing in the morning or before bedtime, is just use it for about 5 minutes.
Like first thing in the morning, like, let's go.
Yeah.
You're like going.
Yeah.
Probably better at night.
So then at bedtime, I would just start with about 2 to 5 minutes. And
2 to 5 minutes a day, 6 in, 6 out.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm trying to keep it in, you're trying to keep it in the zone, right?
You're trying to keep it, visually speaking, in the green.
Yeah.
Like when you're using the app, it'll be in, you want to be in the green as much as possible. And you can notice how sometimes when your thoughts stray, if you're thinking about something stressful, your HRV might take a nosedive, you might go into the red. So you can play around with it that way as well.
Is it kind of like that? What was that old headband that would measure? It was like
Muse.
Yeah. Too, where you hear the birds or the thunderstorm.
This is silent. You can play a track in the background if you like.
Does it work the same kind of way?
No, so it doesn't give you auditory feedback like Muse. I actually found that very distracting. Personally.
It's more like what it's measuring though. Like it's measuring brain activity.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, so it's measuring something different.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing though. When we do get into coherence, our brain and our heart are communicating much more efficiently. So, there's a saying that the longest journey you'll take is a journey between the head and the heart. And that's what heart math helps us do. It helps us kind of walk that.
I like having indicators. Mm-hmm. I like having targets. I'm competitive people with myself. Just like, yes, I'm crushing this problem. How long does some of this stuff last? So, I mean, like the exhale, the sigh, that gives you, I guess, a few moments of instant relief if you got to go do something. But if you're doing something prolonged, like if you tape your mouth and you're sleeping for 8 hours, and you used to be a mouth breather, how much of an effect does that have during the day? Is like the whole day? Is it if you just go back to mouth breathing as soon as you wake up, do the benefits wear off? Like what's the half-life of this stuff?
the honest answer is I don't know, and it's going to vary from person to person depending on other metabolic factors, right? So, breathing can do so much for us, but so can nutrition, so can lighting, so can other action steps that we can take. I would say that the thing that many people don't do well is sleep well, and we found a lot of times their poor sleep is associated with dysfunctional nighttime breathing. So 65 million or 65% of people breathe through their mouth at night. So a very low-hanging opportunity for most people. 65 million Americans snore at night. 22 million have apnea, which means they actually literally stop breathing at night. So how we breathe unconsciously during the day and at night actually sets the upper limit of our metabolic health. So you can't be healthier than how you breathe unconsciously, because you're taking 23,000 breaths a day. It's the one thing that we can actually control. It's the bridge between our sympathetic nervous system and our parasympathetic nervous system. It regulates our circulation. The diaphragm, which is the muscle that separates the trunk organs and the lungs and the heart, is referred to as a second heart. It's also the master pump of the lymphatic system. So when we breathe correctly throughout the day, and our diaphragm moves up and down the way it's supposed to, it takes all the toxins and moves them from our organs in our trunk. There's so many things that happen when we breathe correctly. Like breathing correctly, in my opinion, is the first step towards better health. And for most people, especially when they come to us, it's the last thing they've heard of. Everyone's changed their diet. Everyone's, exercise more. Even with dysfunctional breathing, right? They get results, but they would get better results if their breathing was functional. A lot of people change their diet. We've heard about the alkaline diet, right? Like eat foods that are alkalizing to your body. The most alkalizing thing that we do is breathe correctly. Your lungs are the most important organ in regulating alkalinity of your blood, more so than your diet. So these are important things to understand, because if we breathe correctly, then it's the first domino that knocks down everything else. Our cognitive function improves, our circulation improves, our heart doesn't have to work as hard, our blood pressure normalizes, we don't have imbalances in cortisol and other stress hormones. Our digestive organs, our liver, our kidneys, our reproductive organs start working better. Our sexual health improves because we're producing more nitric oxide. Our focus, our cognition starts to improve dramatically. Our recovery from exercise also improves. How we sleep improves. There's just so much that it's tied to. It's literally the one thing that's connected to every system and cell and tissue in your body. And if we can get people to see that and recognize it, sometimes it's not the most sexiest intervention, because we don't have to like pop a pill or inject anything into you. But it is unequivocally the thing I can say that has the biggest impact on somebody's health.
Yeah, that's why I wish there was some kind of device. I guess the watch is the best chance to tell you when you suck. So it's like that one's measuring your heart rate and telling you need to breathe more.
Yep. So it's actually measuring right now. It's measuring my heart rate. It's giving me a body battery, right? So just like our phone, when we charge it in the morning, it runs out depending on how we use it. And so it's telling me what my body battery is. It's telling my heart rate right now. It'll detect if my heart rate goes abnormal. So if I'm just sitting still and my heart rate starts, elevating, it'll detect that, because maybe I'm doing something that's stressing me out. And then if I consistently do that throughout the day, it's going to say, hey, you probably need to take a breathing break here. So it's a great reminder. And it's also measuring my respiration as well, my breaths per minute.
Does it give you a notice?
It doesn't tell you if your breathing and heart rate become irregular based on your movement. So if I'm moving, it's going to expect me to breathe more. But if I'm sitting still and I start breathing excessively or my heart rate goes up, then that's when I get the warning.
It's like if you're breathing 23,000 times a day, a lot of them probably suck, right? And just having some kind of alert or notice. Like when I got used to barefoot walking, right? If you heel strike like you do in a normal shoe, it hurts.
Yep.
And it forces you to walk properly, because if you don't, it's going to hurt. Whereas you can't feel the immediate hurt of a bad breath. And so some kind of, I guess, I don't know, such an invention for somebody to help me breathe better and give you some kind of alert. It's like, okay, it's like, you got to fix this.
So I like the I breathe because you can set a little, tone every 6 seconds. and you'll always kind of find your way back to that cadence. The mouth breathing or the mouth taping guarantees that you're breathing better, at least while you're sleeping. Another thing that some people will do is they will mouth tape during the day. So if you're not on camera or anything like that, you can do that. You can also get mouth guards that you can wear that seal your mouth so that it, again, forces you to breathe in and out through your nose. And I think a lot of it starts by just having that self-awareness. So
do you get used to it?
Like what?
So like, so if you forget to tape, do you just go back to mouth breathing, or are you used to it?
So there's techniques to breathe better at night. And, one is posture. So it's always best to sleep on our left side. That's the ideal position to sleep in.
How about stomach? It's probably the worst.
Well, stomach is good too.
Okay.
It's just, it forces your neck to be turned to one side. So,
Okay.
Depending on, some people may not feel comfortable with that. But sleeping on your left side is a great position to sleep in because it helps improve and optimize circulation, and it prevents the airway from collapsing. So when people sleep on their back, what happens is their neck goes like this and their airway kinks. So now their breathing becomes restricted.
That's Nina.
And that's what makes it hard for them to breathe through their nose, because breathing through our nose naturally feels restrictive. And the reason for that is actually physical, because we're pressurizing the air. So when we breathe through our mouth, there's no resistance because there's nothing pressurizing the air as it goes into the lungs. When we breathe through our nose, we're pressurizing the air, which allows us to take a deeper inhale. And that deeper inhale allows us to take more cleansing breaths as well. So most of the CO2 is kind of stuck at the bottom of our lungs. And if we're breathing through our mouth throughout the day, we're just packing the air down there, and the CO2 kind of gets trapped. It doesn't circulate as well as it should. So by taking some cleansing breaths, in through the nose, and you can blow out through the mouth if you want, but that can make a big difference for a lot of people.
From the 4 sleeping positions, what's best to worst?
Back is worst.
Back is worst, Nina.
Yeah, because and here's the thing: the worst position is the one that's uncomfortable for you.
Okay.
Right. So if somebody's got a busted up left shoulder, laying on their left side is probably not an option. Ideally, left side down is best. Then I would say right side down, and then sleeping on your stomach would probably be, for some people, that's very comforting. So they just feel very exposed and uncomfortable when they sleep on their back. Okay.
That's childhood trauma that
possibly
stomach. Okay.
It could possibly be. It could be something pre-verbal too, right? That you can't even cognize or recognize that this is something that happened because you didn't know words at that time when that happened. So that is a possibility. I'm not saying that's the case. And then I would say that the worst is probably sleeping on your back.
Okay.
Particularly from a airway perspective. If you do sleep on your back and that's comfortable for you, then you want to try to have a very small pillow or no pillow at all.
For your neck.
Yeah.
Got it. I was talking to Patrick McEwen, and he said breathe through your nose, but he said tape your mouth when you're working out. And I tried, and the weights is fine, but the cardio, he's like, tape your mouth when you're doing cardio too. I like 5 minutes in, I can't. I'm dying. I feel like I'm going to pass out. So I have to, first 5 minutes I can do in and out through the nose. Second 5 minutes, I'm in through the nose, out through the mouth. And then after that, I'm like full on mouth breathing the whole. They can't even try anymore. Funny. So how do that sounds like a really hard thing to do, but he trains athletes. If I'm going to go for a half-hour run, how do you breathe? Is it just practice, or is there a technique am I taking in too much air? Am I like, what am I wrong?
So there's 3 gears of breathing, which you alluded to. So gear number 1 is breathing in and out through your nose. Gear number 2 is in through the nose, out through the mouth. And the third gear is full out sprint, right? And it's going to be in and out through the mouth. And we want to kind of recognize what gear we're in and what gear is necessary. Once we start breaking that pattern of breathing through our nose, then we've likely exceeded our metabolic capacity. Because just like in exercise, if your form breaks down, then you're beyond, even though you might be able to lift that weight and get it up off the ground, you've exceeded your capacity to lift that weight with correct form. So what might benefit you is slowing down your breathing. It sounds paradoxical, to slow your breathing down because we want to breathe more to get in more oxygen. But just realize that it's the concentration of CO2 that's what's causing the urgency to breathe. So if you can take cleansing breaths and get as much air out of your lungs as possible, and then let that CO2 concentration increase, what that does at a tissue level is you get more oxygen dumping at the tissue. So interestingly enough, we have this beautiful survival mechanism. It's called a Bohr effect, which means that as CO2 concentrations increase, more oxygen is delivered to the tissue. So imagine if we stop breathing, we want that to happen, right? We don't want to have to depend on breathing to get oxygen to the tissue. We already have enough oxygen. We just need to create a signal that dumps it to the tissue. And that's what carbon dioxide does. So one of the things that I would suggest to you is increasing your CO2 tolerance. So the way you do that is by walking and plugging your nose. So I'll give you a simple example.
But also not breathing through my mouth.
Yeah, so here's what we do. So because the urge to breathe comes from...
Look at Deepa, she's going to...
Because the urge to breathe comes from CO2 concentrations, knowing that we can actually build up resilience, we can actually build up tolerance to high levels of CO2 and kind of get used to that feeling so we don't overbreathe. So what you would do is you'd go for your regular walk. I know you and Nina enjoy several walks throughout the day. And what you would then do is you would take a few cleansing breaths, so deep inhales, deep exhales, let the air all the way out, do about 2 or 3 of those. And then you take a deep inhale and a relaxed exhale. So the relaxed exhale is upon which you would then plug your nose, close your mouth, and you would take as many steps as you can. Now, you would unplug your nose when you feel a strong urge to breathe, but you never want to get to the point where you're gasping for air. So you wouldn't want to break it with you would just want to be able to gently reclaim your breath. And so doing that day in and day out, you're going to start building up that CO2 tolerance.
Just when I'm walking or just in general?
Just in general, but
okay.
Especially when you're walking, that's a good time to do it because you can count your steps, and that's kind of a way to measure, right? So each day you can measure. Another way to measure your breathing capacity is something called a BOLT score, and I know Patrick may have talked about this with you. So it's called the blood oxygen level test, and essentially what you would do this in the morning before you get up and get out of bed. You would take a few cleansing breaths, and you would exhale gently. So a relaxed exhale, we call it, plug your nose, and then you would time yourself. So, some people, they can't even get to 20 seconds without having to gasp for air. You'd want to get to a point where that first urge to breathe, the clock's done. And you want to build up to about 45 seconds. Another way to increase CO2 tolerance, Devin and I, my son, do this exercise in the car, is you would take a deep inhale, and then you would do a slow nasal exhale. So you would try to exhale from your nose as slowly as you possibly can, and you try to get over 60 seconds. So I can get up to about 1 minute and 37 seconds. It's just as a benchmark, not as, maybe it's a gamification thing. We can see who can outperform one another.
It'll take a while to get there.
But you would just slowly exhale through your nose. You're not buzzing or anything. Again, that's building up that CO2 tolerance.
If I'm slowing down my breathing while running, is it slow in and slow out, or just slow out?
Probably slow out is going to get you the most benefit, because again, that's going to increase the CO2 concentrations the most. And just going back to all of this to the beginning, is you still have 3 gears, right? So it's okay to use that 3rd gear if you need it, right? But if you want to build up more tolerance,
otherwise I die. It's like I can't breathe.
Well, we need to, right? If a lion's facing us or we're sprinting full out, then yeah, you'd want to do that, right? If a burglar's chasing you, you're not going to be focused on nasal breathing, right? Because you just want to get out of that situation.
Yeah. All right, so you have a breathing exercise for us.
Oh,
take us through some guided breathing. What do you want to pick? What are we going to do? I'll close my eyes and you can take it through, because Deepa's going to make me laugh. Or Nina, one of the two of them.
So there is a technique that I use, and it's called the elemental rhythm breathing technique or breathwork experience. Normally, the way we do this is set to music, and there's about 6 rounds of breathing that we go through. But once you get really good at it, it doesn't take 6 rounds to get you into what we might describe as an altered state. And there's actually 4 different, about 5 different techniques that we combine into this breathing session. The first is coherence breathing, so 6 seconds in, 6 seconds out. So we would find that pace of 6 seconds in, 6 seconds out, and then we would take a 2-step breath. So we would inhale to our bellies and inhale to our chests, and then exhale with a 2-step. So it would be like, so it's like a circular breathing. We're breathing in through our nose and out through our mouth. And the reason we're doing that is because we want to move a lot of volume. So the idea here is we're doing this temporarily. This isn't how you'd breathe throughout the day. And then we do that for about a minute or 2, and then we'd increase the pace to go in and out. So be, and then we would do something called breath of fire, where we'd be breathing as fast as we can and just really breathing into our throat. So it would look like this. And then I would ask you to take a full exhale, let it all the way out, take a deep breath in, and then we're going to hold that at the top as long as we can. And generally speaking, you can get up to a few minutes at that point. And then we would do a buzz breath exhale. So we would then do a Brahmari breath, fully exhale, buzzing our face as we did, keeping our tongue at the roof of our mouth, exhaling through our nose. And we would then fully exhale, buzzing for as long as we can, and going all the way to empty.
Okay.
And so that would end the routine.
I forgot some of that. So
Yep.
I'll
And
just follow your lead. You tell me what to do. And
so I can guide you through it. Generally speaking, we want to set an intention into this. So you might want to set an intention. A lot of times when we do this type of breath work, it's important to come back to that intention, and to the intention could be something that you're grateful for. The intention could be a problem that you're trying to solve. It could be you just saying, shut up and let's breathe. Okay, so figure out what that is for
it's
you.
not that last one, but
Figure out what that is for you. And let's take a sit up nice and straight and comfortable, really. And let's breathe in through the nose for a count of 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Feeling that air moving through your body. Beautiful. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. We'll take a few more. Inhale. Exhale. One more full round. Inhale. And then we're going to pick up the pace. Exhale. We'll take a double breath into the belly and lungs. Double breath out through the mouth. Breathe in. Sharp breath in. Out through the mouth. Keep that pace. Twenty more seconds. Be intentional, be deep, be sharp. Sharper, deeper. Follow that intensity. There you go. We're going to pick up the pace one more time on a count of 3, 2, 1. Sharp, intentional. Keep going. 30 more seconds. Let's go. In, out, in, out, in, out, in, out. In, out, 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 in, out. Feel it. Keep going. Deep and sharp. As deeply and sharply as you can. That's it. Give me 10 more seconds. And then we're going to go in and out through the mouth as fast as you can in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's go. As fast as you can. In and out through the mouth. Keep going. 20 more seconds. You got this. Keep going. Keep going. 10 more. Five more. Let's go. Okay, breathe all the way out. Take a deep breath in through the nose, fill the belly, fill the lungs, fill the upper part of the lungs, and hold at the top. And as you're doing that, I want you to squeeze your pelvic floor, the same muscles you would use to stop yourself from peeing. As our diaphragm descends downwards with our full lungs, our pelvic diaphragm moves upwards. So we're essentially giving our organs a nice, beautiful hug, squeezing out all that lymph. And I want you to visualize this beautiful light rising up through your spine as you're squeezing your pelvic floor. Visualize it rising up through your abdomen, through your chest, through your heart, through your throat, and through the top of your head. And keep holding. Keep holding. And whenever you feel ready to, I'm going to ask you to hold as long as you can. You can probably keep holding comfortably. You keep your tongue at the roof of your mouth. And you'll let it out with a buzz breath. Nice and loud and proud and slow. So very slow. Whenever you're ready, you can keep holding. And once you've gone to the bottom of that buzz breath, you're going to hold on empty as long as you can. Keep holding, and I want you to just visualize that light filling up your body, filling up the cells in your body with this golden energy. Keeping your intention in mind. Great hold. A little bit louder. There you go. Let it all the way out and hold at the bottom. Now let's come back to your normal breathing pattern of 6 seconds in, 6 seconds out. Find the pace that's comfortable for you. Great, and this is something that you can repeat, so you can go through this pattern several times.
Welcome back.
It's a great way to, amp up your body, to feel centered, to feel present, to set a beautiful intention, and it Took us about 7.5 minutes to do that.
Let's go. My hands are tingling.
Yeah.
I got really hot.
Yeah.
It's supposed to happen?
Yeah. We can use our breath to send blood flow to different parts of our body. We can use our breath to raise our temperature. We can use our breath to raise or lower our blood pressure. So what you did there is we went through kind of a cornucopia of different breathing techniques that will alter our physiology. So you can't raise your body temperature without creating a shift in your mitochondria.
Yeah.
Right? So this demonstrates that we've just kind of energized our body in a very profound way.
Yeah, I mean, it's already hot in here with my hoodie on and the light. And then like, I'm going to pass out. I got to take this off. But then, the microphone's connected. Anyway, and then I think Deepa mini laughed. Did you mini laugh in the middle of that thing?
No, I did not.
I thought I heard a laugh. Then I almost lost it. All right. Well, leave us with an intention then. It's been an amazing session together. How do you want to end this with an intention for the audience?
Yeah, well, thank you for this opportunity. I'd love for everyone to find their breath and really come back to it throughout the day and use it as a tool for their own inner healing, their inner peace, for better sleep, for better intimacy, and for whatever it is they want to do. The better we breathe, the better we get at everything, whether it's productivity, whether it's athletic performance, whether it's being more responsive instead of being reactive in a situation, whether it's better, performance in the bedroom or whether it's even better performance in the boardroom. Like, it all depends on how we breathe. It's so simple, which doesn't always make it sexy. But what's cool about breathing is that we can actually see improvements, very measurable improvements very quickly. Like, something happened, right? Your body temperature changed, your hands maybe sweat more, your hands are tingling, right? So that there's something happening. And so that's what's beautiful about it, is we can see measurable changes in people in a very short period of time. I always remind people that if you want to feel better in 30 days, change your diet. If you want to feel better in a week, drink more water. If you want to feel better tomorrow, get a good night's rest. But if you want to feel better today, then the only thing I can really think of that gets us there is our breath. Because we can't go even 5 minutes without breathing. But many of us are either over-breathing, which is more common than under-breathing, and many of us may be dysfunctionally breathing, which then leads to a dysfunctional nervous system. So the yogis and the ancients have known this for many, many years. It's baked into every ancient culture that breath is a technology that allows us to create profound shifts in our healing, and it's available to us. We don't have to invent anything. We don't have to go to the store and buy anything. There's no subscription. We just have to do it and commit to it, and we'll see differences. You'll see differences very, very quickly.
I love it. Sachin and Deepa, where are people going to find you?
A few places. They can go to becomeproof.com and learn more about our work. They can also go to 30and30.org, which is a free 30-day program that we've set up for people. We share our 30 best health tips as if you were coming to see us in our clinic. These are the things that you should know so you don't need to come and see us. But if you still do, then we're here to help and we're here to serve and help people get to the root cause of what's causing their illness and ailments or what's preventing them from peak performance.
Amazing. Great work.
Thank you, my friend.
Thank you for coming in.
Thank you. Thank you.
And she did it.
To see my one-on-one breathing session with Wim Hof, check the video right there next to me. I think you'll love it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
Remember, deep breathing is able to change the biochemistry inside, deeper than ever thought possible. I want to teach people